Good day, Katambay. Welcome to Tambay Nuance Austin. Today we're talking about one of the most requested topics. How do you actually live and make a life here in Austin or in America in general? Housing, work, bills, culture, and sometimes homesickness. We're joined here today with our guests. I have here on my right Isaac. He's a banker and he's a financial advisor as well. He got a lot of knowledge about finances,
Business banking.
business
Yeah,
banking.
yeah. I've been in the banking industry for 15 years.
Hmm.
So a mix of the consumer side, the personal side, and half of it is in business.
All right.
Yeah.
And then my next guest is on my left. He's Nader,
So
What up?
and he's a successful entrepreneur.
And dabble in a lot of like restaurants and everything like that. But at the same time, I do work at a bank in the IT industry as well, and so definitely into finances from every single perspective, technology, and the monies.
It's just a good mixes. Yeah, I know. Technology and banking, it's kind of like they all come together for sure. So they're here to share the real talk and practical tips for everyone who's new here in USA. If you're new with this on this page, make sure to follow us for more immigrant stories in the US. Life tips. We're gonna do segment one. Let's start with the basic. When you both of you first arrived in America, what was the first reality check or adjustment you experienced?
Yeah. I guess the biggest thing is the culture shock, right? You don't know. I came from Lebanon, which is
Hmm.
not that bad comparatively to other Middle Eastern countries. It's actually really great. We're very open.
I know.
There's a lot of different things here and there, but there was still a culture shock. I'll give you a very small example: soccer and football. That to me was weird at first because we say football, we mean soccer,
Yeah,
and then
you're
soccer
right.
means football.
Well, it's the same. The
Yeah,
same.
but then also, getting used to a lot of different things. In Lebanon, you could get away with a lot of things as a kid that you cannot get away here in the U.S. as a kid. There
Hmm.
were, there's curfews, there's different rule sets, there's different things. Obviously, when I came to the U.S., I came as a kid, obviously. But that would be the biggest thing. Is like there was a big culture shift, and then you start looking into different aspects. You don't have the same friends that you grew up with. You do have a lot of, personally, I have a lot of family here, and blessed to have a lot of family here. So everybody, held up together, and I never had any kind of like missing element from a family piece perspective, other than certain individuals that weren't able to come with us to the United States. But in general, the biggest thing is culturally, you don't fit as a kid as you were in your own country.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know how old you were when you came, but I was 11 years old, and I think for me, I didn't really expect a lot moving
Hmm.
here. So maybe I didn't feel a lot of culture difference because I didn't know, right? I didn't know what
Right.
to expect.
I was a little bit older. I was 14 years old when I first
Okay.
came, and then we
It's
also
almost
had
the same.
yeah, and we also had a lot of like some situations with our family. So I would come here for 2 years, go back to Lebanon
Yeah.
for another year or two, and then come back. We had to go, all over the world because of my, the parental situations with my mom and dad. So I had to experience it. I was basically thrown into the mix.
Yeah. So I had an idea of what America looks like based on movies, right? So watching growing up, like watching Home Alone, that's like
Right.
my favorite movie, and there's snow everywhere. I viewed Americans as just whites and blacks because I like basketball, right?
Right.
So we moved to Phoenix, and in Phoenix, it's southwest, right? It's there's a lot of Hispanics, and I was like, hey, where are the white people and the black people, right? Everybody looks like me. There's a big Filipino community.
Right.
I went to a private school in middle school, and me and brother were the only Filipinos. So I think that's how I knew, like, oh, we're in a different place. We're different from each other. Um, we spoke English, but obviously we had an accent, right? So I was hearing my classmates, hey, how come they talk like this? They sound like this. But I didn't really care. I didn't really care growing up. All I wanted was to make friends, right? And me and my brother were pretty athletic growing up, so we were kind of like the odd ones, but we were not. Um, we were athletic, so we were the cool kids, right? We were not
Right.
bullied. We play basketball and soccer stuff like that. So we had a good. I had a good experience. And then just later on in life, when people say like about like challenges, right? Like what's the challenge? Discrimination and racism, stuff like that. And that's just how I found out later on in life. But like growing up, in the beginning, I didn't know. So, what do you call that term? Uh,
Ignorance.
ignorance
is
is bliss. Yeah, ignorance is bliss. So,
Yeah.
I didn't really expect much. So, yeah,
Yeah, and to
so-
be honest with you, like I'm not saying that it was a big challenge.
Yeah.
Fitting in, but it was a culture shock for sure. And then also, having, I think coming at an earlier age is a very big advantage. The
Yeah.
earlier you come, the more you'll adapt. The later you come, the
The
less
challenging,
adaptability,
yeah.
the more challenging it's going to be in general.
That's right. That's right. So both of you mentioned about challenges. What was one thing you never expected would become a challenge? I mean, you mentioned about culture. So
That was, I think that was the
generally, what is it? That's what it is. Like,
Yeah, generally
like the
that was
culture.
yeah, the biggest thing was definitely, in my opinion, at least the culture part. That was, and again, I wouldn't really call it like a challenge. There's just, I guess, differences. There are
Yeah.
differences. Whether that's the best way you can explain them is that things are different between different areas of the world, and you get to experience it, differently.
Yeah, just like growing up, the food, right? So in school, my parents would pack lunch for me, and the food that they'll pack, the food they'll pack for me is totally different from my classmates, right? Class will have Lunchables, they have crackers and ham and sandwich. I would have rice and spam, you know,
Which is
So-
arguably better.
yeah. Like now, it's like, oh man, that was good.
Yeah.
I had a good lunch, I had like adobo for lunch and rice, and yeah, and like, but growing up, I was like, man, I wish I had Lunchables.
Right.
I wish I had
Yeah.
like soda. I wish I had like the little cheese and crackers that everybody that's. It's not really a challenge. It's just something that I noticed.
It's
Right, growing
different.
Up.
It's
just different.
differences.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah,
as an
those are the
adult, like
differences.
growing up, like, wait, that's
Bro,
great,
it's the same. Everybody,
Yeah.
when I was young, I wanted pizza and I wanted
Yeah.
burgers and everything, and I would say no to shawarma, no to like all of the Lebanese food. Now, as an adult, I'm like, I was pampered.
Yeah. So let's go to segment two, the basic survival. Now let's go to the most practical part. How to survive daily life in the U.S. Let's walk through some real life situations. What was your very first adjustment when you arrived here?
So, I think you need to give me a little bit more on the question. Like when you
as an like
As a-
survival as an adult now, or
As an
is it-
adult?
is it-
Yeah, when you start, like when you
Working.
start and you go out. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, finding friends probably is not easy. When you go to school.
No, this stuff is all, as an adult, it's not easy to develop more friends, especially, like I said, I came growing up there majority of my life, which
Yeah.
means I had more friends there. But, talking to people, again, I guess I go back to culture because certain things that you do in life, even if you don't mean it,
Mhm.
like you don't mean to be, I don't know, like I don't know if I can be too specific. I'm gonna try, but there are certain times where you would offend somebody when you didn't know that you were offending somebody.
Yeah.
So those were challenges as an adult, right? Because we come from different cultures, and even though as much as you try to, put yourself into this culture, this new thing that you are experiencing, sometimes you miss something.
Yeah.
And that could, potentially damage a situation. I actually experienced that more as a kid than as an adult because I learned as a
Right.
kid.
Yeah.
I would do something, I would say something to people, and, or kids my age, and they would take offense to it. And I would be like, why? I say that to my friend all the time in Lebanon. Nobody cares. Why are you upset? But how would you know?
Yeah. I know.
So those are some of the things that I think were challenging. Even as an adult, I had to, in the workplace, understand and communicate better.
Yeah, jokes is different here.
Yeah.
So I thought my jokes back home is applicable here, and I tried that one, and I thought, we're gonna be misunderstood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but I feel like it's a superpower, right? So you get to play two persons, right? So like you get to switch. Sometimes okay, I know your jokes when I hang out with my Filipino friends, I change to the
Right.
Filipino culture, the Filipino the way we communicate, and at work it's totally different,
Yeah.
right? But yeah,
Well, you can think about it now that you have two cultures.
yeah,
That's the best way to describe it. You can
Right.
you can
Yeah.
embed yourself into the American culture as much as you can, and then
Yeah.
at the same time, you can switch, like you said, and become more adapt to your original culture.
yeah. That's
yeah,
right.
but it's interesting. It's interesting though. I think you would relate too, and a lot of, like the zero gens, right? The ones who immigrated here in the States in a young age,
Yeah.
or the first generation, where you're very close to your parents' culture,
Mhm.
but you're not born in the States, or you're not born here. What I'm trying to say is you're kind of in the middle.
You're a hybrid.
Right. So it's a totally different culture than the Filipino culture or the Lebanese culture that are like Lebanese who grew up in Lebanon and who grew
Right.
up in the Philippines, who knows the Filipino culture because they grew up there as an adult. But if you're in the middle, right, where you move to the States when in a young age, you learn the language, you learn the culture, feels like you're not, since you're not born here, you're not fully American in a way.
Yeah,
You're still
yeah.
an American,
You're an American, but you're
but
not fully.
You're not fully American. You're in the middle, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's totally different. So like one example, in this in high school, we have a term um, for Asians who are new to the States, right? We call them like fobs. It's derogatory term. We don't hear that anymore here.
Yeah.
You don't hear that anymore because I think the younger generation now is a lot younger, a lot nicer.
Yeah. So
Um,
probably they use a different term.
Maybe, but I think I heard it a lot more back in the day. But
What-
yeah,
sorry,
it's
What is the
derogatory.
meaning of
Fob? So fresh off the boat. You're really I can tell that person is a fob. He looks fobby, right? Because the way they clothe, the way they dress, the way they talk. So, but yeah, so where am I going with this? You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
I think there's a difference between.
We've heard terms like that too.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
some terms we can't even say them on the podcast. I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Some
it's fine.
descriptions.
Yeah. So next question: when you are like you already grown up, you have your own. How did you deal with housing, rent, deposits, utilities, and budgeting?
Okay, so this is something that I personally never wanted to rent. So the moment I got my first job, I wanted to make sure that I owned a house. I wanted property in my name. I wanted property in the future. I understood real quick, real early on. And this is with meeting with different Lebanese, very successful Lebanese people that my dad knows. My dad, one of them, but my dad knows, and all of those. They would tell me, own a property. They would have like 4 or 5 houses, sometimes way more. And so I never wanted to rent. So the moment I graduated and I got my first job at Hewlett Packard, I only rented for 1 year, which was from, I guess,
That's
2012
nice.
to 2013. That's when I was rented, and I saved almost all my money to put a down payment on a house. I knew that I can only, back then, 3% on a house was feasible for a down payment if you do FHA. And so I went down that route, and I picked out a house and wanted to make sure that that's the one that at least I'm going to keep for a long time. And that was my first house. And then I got another house later on. I don't like to personally rent. I feel like it's kind of like a big piggy bank. Although you are paying, and you are paying interest, and you're, essentially, with rent, you're taking that money and you're throwing it away. With a home mortgage, you are definitely increasing the value of your own net worth.
That's right.
Especially if you bought it at, like, let's say 150 grand or 200 grand, and then all of a sudden it's a $500,000 house, which happened in Austin, happened in Pflugerville, happened everywhere. So now your net worth, all of a sudden, even if you have zero in the bank, you have 300 grand, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I never really wanted to rent. As far as budgeting and everything else, it truly depends on how your goals. Lots of people like to just save X amount in the savings, and that's good and all, but that goes nowhere. Um, Not necessarily nowhere. It just doesn't yield a proper return. You need to start, and Isaac will be a lot better resource than me, but I like to put my money into different into things that make me money, houses, into 401ks. Especially, I'll do the minimum with a bank with a company that I work for. So if they match me at 3%, I'll do 3%. They'll give me free money. I like to put stuff in HSAs, especially if they're gathering some sort of money from the market. Index funds. Those
Yeah,
are the
that's
things where you need to put your money, and that's how I would budget. Certain, at least from a finances
Yeah.
perspective. There's definitely play money, but there's also money that goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk about this forever, for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing
Um,
15 years in bank, so let's see.
Yeah, so, I mean, so going back to the rent part, so with my background in finance, I didn't start in finance. A lot of bankers just a lot of them started as a teller, right, and just became and just moved up, moved the corporate ladder and stayed there. That's kind of how I was. When I went to college, I didn't go for banking or finance, so it's totally different career. Or I'm sorry, different. What I studied was different from
Yeah.
finance.
Mhm.
So going back to renting, um, so with money, with rent, well, with money, a lot of it is really behavior, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of books out there like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Instant Millionaire. Those are two great books.
Yeah,
that I've-
yeah. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a good book.
And 90% of the book it just talks about your behavior, discipline. A little bit of it they talk about 401k, index fund, and securities. That's great and all, but there are a lot of high net individuals out there that are not traditionally educated, right? They didn't finish high school. They don't even have brokerage accounts. But they're able to build wealth in the States because they have the discipline to do it. And at the end of the day, that is the main ingredient, is the discipline. So we can talk about budgeting teaches discipline. You have because you have to stick to a plan, right? For example, I'm not gonna go into it, but there's a 50 30 20 split. It's a budgeting it's a budgeting strategy, and there's a lot of videos on this on YouTube. But basically, 50% of your income goes to essential needs, so your expenses, anything that goes out for bills, goes to the 50%. The 30% is yours, right? That's your money. The 20% goes to investment, your brokerage,
Right.
savings account, business high yield savings account, right? But that's just the general foundation. That's just the basic. You're not going to stay in that 50 30 20 split forever, because you're going to adjust the higher your income goes, you're going to adjust that percentage. But that's a good place to start. But what it does, it creates, again, the discipline. You need to, it allows you to see what money's going in and what's going out. Just like in business, you pay attention to your P&L, your profit
Right.
and loss. Same thing in your personal finances. You got to treat it as a business. And again, going back to the renting part, you're right that high net worth individuals own homes, right? You have to own a property or a house to be, because that adds into your net worth.
Right.
The equity in the house adds to your net worth. So that's a big part of your net worth. But in the beginning, it's when you're building your wealth, you're just in your college, right? You're not making that much money. So don't be afraid, or don't feel that you're falling behind, or don't feel ashamed that you're renting, because there is totally nothing wrong with renting.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of people who don't own properties that are high net worth individuals, right? Now, if you don't own a house and you rent, it doesn't mean that you're just spending your money recklessly. Now, that's not how you build wealth. If you're renting, like what Nader said, if you're renting, you're just wasting your money away because it's not going to your to equity in your house. It's not yours. Now, if you're gonna rent, you need to make sure that you're budgeting. That's what we're going back to the budgeting part. That needs to be the foundation. You need whatever you're not putting towards a mortgage, right, for your future. That needs to go to an investment. That needs to go to a brokerage account. But again, we're going in details here. But that's the foundation. If you're not renting, make sure you're putting money elsewhere so it'll grow money in the future. So eventually, you'll be able to save to buy for a down payment for a house. But yeah.
So one thing, I was lucky because I didn't have to pay rent in college and all that.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing that I would like to thank my mom and dad for.
Right.
You know, I'd say it proudly.
Culturally, that's
Culturally,
how it is too.
right?
Yeah.
Culturally,
Yeah.
I
Which
was
is
lucky.
good.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
one thing that, you know, adding to my story probably makes it a lot easier, right? But and I agree with you on everything that you said. Of course, there's nothing that I disagree about. But I will say also, you know, there are definitely people that can have net worth without owning real estate and everything. But real estate is the easier option, if you think about it. Long term, it's the easier and the safer option.
It's a lifestyle change too. You
Yeah.
gotta look at it as a lifestyle change.
It's
okay.
a liability too, if you think about it, because you still have to maintain it, and then if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the actual income to own multiple properties or understand, how homestead exemptions work within 50 miles of each other, and how are you going to rent and what you're going to do if let's say a renter can't pay. And there's definitely dimensions to it.
Yeah.
You have to be smart.
It's 100% a liability.
Yeah.
Your primary home.
Your primary, even your secondary.
Your secondary is for investment because there's cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. Your primary home, you live in it. It's not making you money, so it's not considered an investment.
Right.
So money's going out. Nothing's coming in. But if you have your secondary home for Airbnb or rental property, that's considered as an investment because there's cash flow coming in every month. But yeah, without getting in too much into it, that's
Well, follow-up question is that one. Like when you mentioned about discipline and like attitude about money. So what do you mean by that? It's probably just
yeah.
like
So the
rich dad, poor dad.
yeah. So money is just for me, money is a reflection of your good decisions overall financially, right? So, for example, we're setting your budget, right? When you stick to your budget and you're disciplined, the dollar amount in your bank reflects that because you're not spending
That's right.
money on bad investment or something that's not giving you return.
Yeah.
So the behavior over knowing, like even if you don't have a brokerage account, right? Because I have clients who are making like 70,000 a year combined income, right? Here in Austin, that's not a lot. But they're very disciplined on saving money. So they only have a savings account that's not earning interest, but they're just putting money there every single
Right.
month.
That's right.
They're budgeting their food. They know how they're not really fancy when it comes to clothing.
Yeah.
They have basic cars that are paid off.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have any debt. So whatever majority of their income is going to their savings account, which is a great problem to have. They have like $300,000-$400,000 in a savings account that's not making money. But that's a good problem to have as a banker. Hey, you know what? We have other options. Now then it becomes an educational thing. But the important thing is the behavior. They have the behavior.
Yeah.
Because you can have a high.
You can be a millionaire
you
and
can-
you're spending 1.5 million a year.
You
yeah.
can have a high.
Yeah, it's still the
income.
same. You're losing money.
Yeah, so
You're not saving.
I think what it is, what it boils down to when you say behavior and discipline is people living within their means, whatever their
That's
means
right.
it is.
Yeah.
So if you make $100,000
You're spending
and you're
120 grand.
you're saving 50, good on you. But if you're making $100,000 and you're spending 150 on stupid shit, then that's basically where discipline lies. I don't mind people spending money. I don't mind people buying like anything they want, as long as you have some sort of net safety, meaning that, say today you God forbid lose your job or whatever. Do you have a backup? Can you survive at least 6 months till you find a new
You
job?
need to have a savings 6 months.
So lots of people. I looked at something that I think was very interesting. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. We could look it up, but
Six
The-
out
the-
of 6 out of 10 Americans don't have
it's for
$1,000.
yeah. It's like
in
it's
their
like it's like
savings account.
it's some insane number
Yeah.
where if you look at people's savings accounts, and when I think that particular study wasn't looking at just like particularly just a saving account. It was like looking at how much do they have access in liquid cash, whether they need to do something about it, and
It's in the savings account, and it's not.
there's nothing. There's like $1,000.
And it's not based on income either. So like what Nader is saying, you can be a high income earner, but you still fall in that
Yeah.
statistic because you're living paycheck to paycheck
Yeah.
because of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
That's
so
right.
yeah.
So next question is what was your strategy to finding a job?
Oh, well, biggest thing was graduating out of college with computer science degree in 2011 was actually just not that hard to find a job.
That's right.
That was like the prime of the market. And so I just looked at, it wasn't really an internship. It was like a college graduate program or college graduate requisition. And I applied to it, and we had a referral from the inside who pushed my application, really good friend of the family, and he pushed my application through and got me an interview. And then after that, it was just, okay, I'm in. This is your door. Now what do you do? What do you do? What do you do with that opportunity? Do you throw it away or do you do something about it? And so my strategy was simple. I have a college degree, referral, college, requisition, got into it, and then built off of that.
Yeah, mine's a little different because I was going to college and working at the same time. Obviously didn't have rich parents or anything like that. So I had to pay for school and work at the same time. At the time, I was in the cell phone industry in sales.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, and I was doing well. I was an operations manager at 21. So imagine at 21 years old, you're in management position, but I felt like I was already in the ceiling of my what I can earn. So Ari said, my wife, like, hey, you're going to school for something else, for business, right? So why don't you try, banking or it's like, man, like we just got married and I don't really want to rock the boat. So like strategy, like my strategy was my wife. I listened to my wife, right? So like, yeah, I started
like a good
banking from the
strategy.
bottom and then work my way up, and then but if I was to go back, right? If I know what I know now, strategize. I think there's value on switching different, not staying too long in a company. I know it sounds bad, but not staying too long in the staying too long in a company means the increase on your salary is limited. If you stay in the company and gain experience for let's say 4 years max, and then look elsewhere, I think your income over time is going to be higher than if you were to stay in one
Yeah.
company.
They bump up your offer.
100%.
And the Gen Zs are really good at that.
Yeah.
That they don't stay in one place a long time, and there's good and bad. I think there's a good healthy balance of doing that. You don't want to burn bridges, but you also want to know your value, right?
Yeah.
So strategically, yeah, gain experience. If I was to go back, gain experience, and then move.
Yeah, actually, also millennials are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
We
I know.
tend to
Yeah.
stay at a job anywhere between 3 and 5 years. It's just the older generation that sticks to
Yeah.
the mentality of I have
5
this
years
job.
actually long,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think
yeah.
like 3 years, like the Gen Z is like 6 months.
Yeah, Gen Z's. Well, but that's also
6
because
to
I
9
think
months.
mentality they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a completely different mentality,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think
They're
lots
younger.
and
Not
lots
a lot
of
of
them are.
responsibilities yet.
And lots of them are, when we came onto the scene as younger adults, right? With their social media was there for sure, Facebook and everything, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't like you're making millions and millions of dollars by trying to be a podcaster. Now there's programs to be a podcaster and to be a YouTuber and to be an all of that.
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah,
Well,
but the
no,
thing,
but I'm serious. There's
Yeah.
there's programs where teach people how to basically understand social networking, and
yeah, that's correct.
and so lots of them go into it and they're making probably thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but decent money off of social media. And they don't want to be on working for a 9 to 5 job.
Well, there's a company that offers like if you have 50,000 views, you get like 37 a month.
Yeah,
Thousand.
yeah.
So yeah, I think we got boomers here in the room because they stayed in the job for like 15 years now.
Who?
I don't know.
We're not gonna. We're
But
looking at.
I'm doing that, man. I mean, I've been
Hey, you
this is
made
the
me look-
longest
you-
I have job.
You made me look.
The current job I have is the longest because I've been this company for 3 years now. But usually I only stayed for 2 years. They kept jumping. I get
Yeah.
pumped my offer $7, $8, $10 every time I jump. So
Right.
it's a really huge difference. But next questions. What should newcomers understand about U.S. work culture?
So
What'd you
the work culture is actually. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible. There's different cultures. You'll find your extreme hard workers. You'll find the people that just don't really care too much, just do the bare minimum. You'll find the people that potentially want to backstab you to get on top of you. There is, to put it into simpler terms, I don't think it's any different than any work culture I've worked in. Right? You'll find a mix of like all of this different personalities. I guess the biggest differences that I did notice is that you will find though people that when they do care, they care a lot. And that's how you find people that are super successful in these companies. A CEO is not going to get to become a CEO if he's just not caring,
Yeah.
right? There's a potential drive. But I also noticed that, this is the hopefully politically correct part. Immigrants tend to do better. We come normally, most of us at least, we come from backgrounds or countries that, it's challenging to find a job, to make a decent income. We come from a little bit more of a challenging background. So immigrants tend to come into a workplace wanting to make money,
Yeah.
wanting to be successful, wanting to use this opportunity. And I'm not saying that, like people who are born here don't do that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying we normally come from a more challenging background, and sometimes it gives an edge.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is the biggest difference is, from a work culture perspective. But other than that, I truly do think that you'll find a mix of everything. It's no different than any other
Yeah.
work culture. You just need to be a good communicator.
Yeah, there's some workers just like come in and clock out, clock in, clock out, and
Yeah.
and then most of the time it's not just really about work. It's about the people around you.
Yeah.
Your coworker, and then I think you mentioned about that. I think it's the mindset, and then the discipline also that our parents been teaching us.
Yeah.
That's probably respect your work and all that.
Yeah. Piggybacking on what you said, the communication part. So work culture, where for me, you have to find a career or a job that it just becomes part of your life. I know we have a saying, there's a term, work-life balance, right? I've heard about that and I've thought about it. I think it's if you love what you do, it just becomes part of your life, and it doesn't mean that it's two separate things. I guess you said that. What's the question again? The advice.
Is that what should newcomers understand about U.S. work culture?
So for the newcomers, I think it's important that you need to be able to market yourself, right? What I mean by that is people's perception of you is their reality. So the days of putting your head down is working hard. That's great. You need that. That's a good quality to have. But if you're doing that quietly, like the saying called like work hard, you just be quiet and work hard. It's actually gonna hurt you.
I
if
agree.
you working in the corporate world. In the corporate world, the higher you get in your position, it's a matter of how you communicate with the team, how you can gather the team. CEOs, they don't do the day-to-day job as everybody else, right? They might not know what Mater does in the tech
Right.
department. They don't. He doesn't know what I do in the banking side, but he has the vision and he is able to communicate his vision to his team. Um, yeah, so communication is key in how people perceive you. So networking is key as well. So if you're in an industry where it's relationship, if you need to partner up with different companies to get their business, your networking and connection is also very, very important.
Actually, it's the most important thing. Now that you mentioned it, perception is reality. If they perceive, you could be doing nothing, and I'm not saying that.
And we know this
But
because
there's
we
people that
know
do yeah,
we know in the corporate
They do nothing, but they're
Right.
perceived as geniuses that we cannot get rid of them, right? You're going to be safe. But you could be the hardest working individual, but you're perceived as somebody who's either lazy or you're perceived as somebody who's quirky or weird or whatever the case may be. And yeah, you're not going to have a great time. I think market and sell yourself.
Yeah.
How can you sell your ideas and stand out from everybody else? On meetings, talk. Don't be the quiet one. I tell that to my team all the time. Like, hey, don't be quiet on calls. You have a good idea, present it. Go to a tech forum. Show them what you can do. This is the stuff that I think is also, matters. I think you gave a really good advice there, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So financially, what helped you the most? The credit score, the bills, insurance, or savings?
Well, so
Say that again. What helped?
So financially, what helped you the most?
what helped you the most? Is
The
it
credit
credit score, bills?
bills, insurance, savings?
Okay, so bills definitely help me with nothing, other than giving
we
me a
have to
headache.
pay bills.
I know, but it gave me a headache. The biggest, I think, the two things that if you financially that helped me is credit score 100%. I don't like using my own money. I like using the bank's money, and I like to return it.
Yeah.
So, like for example, I take I buy a brand new car, and I tell people that you don't necessarily need to make money off of that brand new car.
Yeah, you're right.
But I take it, and then the moment it appreciates it, I sell it. And let's say I bought it for 90 and I sold it for 80, and there's a loss of 10 grand.
10 grand, yeah.
That's okay with me. I didn't lose the 90. So I like to have. I think the credit score thing is very, very important. Make sure that you don't miss payments. Have a good credit score, because then every bank, you'll be like a prime candidate. You'll get the best rates. Say you want to open a business. If you have an 800 credit score, it's different than somebody who has a 500 credit score. It's a reflection of who you are. Somebody with an 800 plus credit score tells the bank, reliable, person, somebody who's financially stable, can probably pay back their loan, right? There's so many different aspects to that credit score piece. But at the same time, and it's something else that helped, I think I mentioned it before, is owning real estate. Owning real estate, owning property, owning investments.
Yeah.
Something that can get you that extra nudge over somebody else. Something that you can say, if things were to blow, I have a backup.
You get something.
So those are the two things. I don't think insurance for me personally and paying bills, unless you're talking about credit card bills, then for sure. But I don't think those are,
There's a savings as well.
yes.
That part is always more important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just going back to the basics, right?
Yeah.
So basics, you're again going back to the behavior part, discipline, budgeting. You need to know, what's coming in and what's going out. You need to master credit, right? So don't be afraid of credit. But you can't skip steps. So if you don't have the behavior part down,
Don't use a
if you
credit
do-
card.
if you don't have the budgeting down, you can't skip steps. Like you can't get a credit card because you're just gonna, it's not gonna be good for you, right? If you don't have that down, you don't want to open a brokerage account and open investments, right? So it's definitely steps. Like it's like building a building, right? You gotta start the foundation, and then slowly build your wealth. So for me, that really what helped is really again going back to reading the books. It's something inside of you that's gonna change. You're gonna get that aha moment. It's like, oh wow, like I used to think like I'm gonna buy a nice car, right? Because I deserve it. No, you don't. It's either you can afford it, you can't, right? So I think that changing that mentality It's hard to teach unless if you experience it, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
or else everybody's gonna be rich
Yeah.
and be millionaires. Like there's not gonna be a job for financial advisors and bankers because
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm just gonna teach you financial education, you're gonna be rich. No, it doesn't work like that because they have to realize that, and they have people, because I had to do it. I had to experience it myself. I had to experience being broke, having nothing in the bank account, being negative, right? And I think that's the best teacher in life is your experience.
Experience. It's always been.
Yeah, and again, just reading those books, The Rich Dad Poor Dad and Instant Millionaire, just I think I remember this. I was at work, yeah, I had no customers, right? And my friend like, hey, read this book. This guy he's a successful YouTuber. He's got multiple channels and he's doing good for himself. He's not. He used to be in banking as well, but he got fired. But anyways, but that's doing well. But hey, Isaac. Actually, he gifted me the book. Um, I was reading through it. Cool. Then in the middle, there's just something about what it says your behavior, right? Like, um, yeah, realizing that you can spend the $5 $10 in on coffee in Starbucks every day, or you can you can
Do it your own
make
for
your
30
own thing.
cents, maybe even less, probably.
Right. And it's just realizing that, and then just applying it in real life, and then slowly over
Yeah.
time.
So one thing, if piggybacking off of you, if you know how to use a credit card well, if you actually know how to use a credit card well, you'll do well. You can get the nicest cards with nicest benefits. I see a lot of people do this where they don't have any income coming or potential income coming, but they think they might be getting it or something like that. So they'll spend, for example, $2,000 on something that they don't have 2,000 in the bank, and then it'll pile up, and interest will pile up, and then they're in credit card debt. That is completely wrong, and that could be very detrimental to somebody. But if you use it right, like Isaac is saying, where for example you want to buy something for $2,000, but you can get cash back, but you have that $2,000, it's play money, whatever the case may be, put it on your credit card and pay it off right away, or whenever it posts, so you can get the benefits and everything else that comes with it. Now you're good. But unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people fall into credit card debt. I can name, no, I'm not going to name anybody, but I can tell, I know so many people that are in, six-figure credit card debt, six-figure.
Yeah.
Not like 10,000, 5,000 where it's salvageable. Like imagine, Isaac, somebody coming to you and saying, hey man, I have a $90,000 credit card debt. What would you do? Where would you start?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you go back to the basics.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna,
it's gonna be
sell
it's gonna
everything.
take time. It's gonna take time because they didn't accrue all that debt right overnight. It took time for them to
Behavior.
get that debt. So same thing. If you want to get out of debt, it'll take time.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what you said about what helped you. Right. I don't want to forget this. I think getting good advice from the right people is very important too, right? So like the behavior part is good, knowing how to budget is good, but where do you get your advice? That's why I think connection and the way you network is important. So having a good banker on your side, having a good accountant, right? Having a good life insurance agent, and not just anybody.
Having good people next to you.
Right, like build relationship with your banker. Take them out to lunch, right? Like really get to know them, because they're just people like everybody else, right? So,
Now you guys
what's-
are robots, money robots.
right?
Do you do this, Isaac?
Hmm?
Do you do this financial advices?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can.
So
Tell them.
yeah, so that's what I mean. Like so, bankers and accountants. What's good about them? They know everyone, right? So if you're having issues with debt and stuff like that, or if you have like immigration issues, anything like, they know literally everybody because they work with a lot of business owners and they're well connected. But anyways, yeah, get your advice from people who are doing that professionally.
Tell our viewers.
So, huh?
Tell our viewers about you. Where can they get the advice?
Let's do that later.
Okay. Well, next question is: how did you manage homesickness and cultural adjustment?
Well, I think I talked a lot about the cultural
Yeah.
adjustment. Homesickness, I still am homesick.
Yeah.
So I like the way I manage it is I listen to music from Lebanon. I talk to my friends from Lebanon. I ensure that I'm very proud to be Lebanese, and that's how I manage my homesickness. And obviously, I try to go back as much as I can. Sometimes I can't go back to every 3 or 4 years. Sometimes 3 years. Sometimes back to back. Who knows? But my homesickness is always going to be there. The way I manage it is food.
Food, of course. Yeah.
I love Lebanese food,
Yeah.
and fortunately for me, my dad is a great chef. Fortunately for me, my wife is an amazing cook.
Hmm.
So I'm surrounded by, and her mother, my mother-in-law, her mother. So I'm surrounded by people that if I ever want that taste of Lebanon, I get it. And if I ever want the music of Lebanon, I get it. I also have a lot of photos from when I go to Lebanon. I take pictures every day. Even when I just am in my old room, I take pictures.
Hmm.
That's how I try to manage homesickness. Some people think that's not the best way because maybe you're adding more, I guess, emotions to every single thing. But to me, it's memories that I create.
Yeah.
I go back to those memories
Yeah.
and I think about them in a positive way. And then I look forward to visiting again. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's like, it's kind of like a cycle. Okay, I visited, I'm enjoying my time. I'm back in the US, I'm homesick. I eat the food that I love. I listen to the music that I like. I look at the photos that remind me of Lebanon, and then I look forward to the next time I'm gonna see it. Yeah,
Next visit. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, family is where home is, right? So my immediate family, they're here in the States already. I still have my cousins, my grandma, my aunties there in the Philippines. Um, so that's what excites me going back, seeing them. But you know, the memory I have in the Philippines, that's it's very short, right? To 11 years old, my elementary days, preschool. I have friends, but we don't really have any contact anymore because they went to high school, right? Without me, college.
right.
Um, so yeah, I miss the family in the Philippines. I miss the food, the home cooked meals. But I get that here in the States because of
Yeah,
my parents growing up. Like growing up in Phoenix, Arizona, there's a huge Filipino community, so I'm blessed to have friends in church as well who are Filipino. So I don't feel like I'm missing out, um, or I'm missing. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm missing out of the Philippines other than not being there. Um, but culturally, I feel like I still grew up
you
as
adapted well.
yeah, I still have that Filipino side of me. I still, nakapagsalita pa ng Tagalog,
Yeah.
di ba?
You still speak the Tagalog. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So last question with this segment: if you had one golden tip for newcomers, what would it be?
Personally, the golden tip would be everything you see in the movies about the US can be dreamy and all of that, which, we all understand it's possible. The US is a very challenging place. My golden tip is one, well, I have multiple. I'll start with one. Be ready for a challenge. This isn't like where you're not going to grow money on trees. So be ready for challenges, be ready for it to be tough. But the second tip is if you're smart about it, if you are in the right opportunity or in the right situation, opportunities are going to come. It's up to you whether you grab those opportunities and run with it or you do nothing.
Mhm.
So those would be
Yeah.
my two tips.
Um, so I'm gonna be biased because I'm in banking. So I think the main thing is really, it's learn, learn good behaviors for to catching up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah. Well, we don't do that. I mean, don't do that, or else
Yeah.
you're gonna be buried.
Yeah.
It's just the same aspect of
Yeah.
financially. You just stay where you are. You stays your boundary and it stays your limit. And it just stays there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna go with the myth busting question. We hear a lot of myth here about America. Help me clarify this, Katambais. Is it a myth that it is easy to get rich in America?
think it's a myth.
It's a myth.
Do you really need perfect English to survive?
Myth.
Myth.
Is it true that salaries are always high even for entry level job?
Myth.
Depends probably.
Even I mean, unless you're a doctor or like a lawyer, then yeah. But
No, entry level as doctors also.
they're
low.
not that great. I mean, I know
Yeah.
doctors that were making, I think, 80
The
grand as residents.
yeah.
So when we say $80,000 for people outside the U.S., they may think that's a lot. It's not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You can't compare it outside because our money here
It's not the
is
same.
not the same.
$80,000 in Lebanon, you're a king. $80,000 in the U.S., you're less than average. That's maybe not less than average, but about average. Think maybe average median for the U.S.
Yeah. Is,
So
it,
myth.
is work here easier than back home? You think?
Uh, no.
Not the
Banking
myth.
area.
I
It's
say
not a straightforward answer.
Not a straightforward
'Cause-
answer.
Yeah, because it's different, right? Work is different. I think because again the way we work here, it might be the same industry, same company. We might know the same the knowledge. I mean the product and services might be the same,
The proficiencies.
but how you work, how you deal with people, right? Like it's gonna be
And
totally
also,
different.
I didn't really work in Lebanon, to be honest with you, to be able to give you a
Yeah.
clear
Same
to give
thing.
you a clear, comprehensive, comparison.
Yes.
I didn't work in Lebanon, especially in my field.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've heard like especially
but
like
I-
with nurses, right?
But
Like,
I still think this is not a myth.
Yes,
I think it
because,
probably
my-
is a little bit easier here due to just policies and for me at least, policies and regulations exist here that don't exist back home. Human resources probably better here than back home. I mean, there are certain things that could potentially make it easier, but there is no straightforward answer.
Yeah, based on experience, and I thought like we have much more back home. We have much more, balance, life work balance. Because back home, after my work, I can just go somewhere else and go get a drink and all that thing. Maybe because I have a family already back home. I don't have a family. Maybe that's the reason why. So probably if I have a family, it'd probably be over there. So probably I won't be doing that.
yeah, but in the States, what makes it hard is that you're part of this whole system. You're part of this whole engine, right? So if you lose your job, you gotta get a job.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there is no other way.
There's no other way.
Yeah.
So if you compare it that way, maybe in the Philippines, you have the luxury of living with family and you have a backup plan,
Yeah.
right? In here, a lot of people are maybe 1 or 2, 3 paychecks away from going bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
So in that aspect, yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
So is life here really more relaxed?
Yes, I would say I would say definitely. But again, here's the thing: compared to Lebanon, it's more relaxed because certain things in Lebanon don't readily exist. For example, electricity is not 24/7 in Lebanon. It's I think like maybe 12 hours a day, and then 12 hours you have to have a generator.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you're living in the dark.
Mhm.
Water, like hot water, here in the U.S. is 24/7. In Lebanon, you have to flip on a switch to heat up your water, and sometimes there isn't enough electricity to actually heat up the water. So, if you start thinking about the general, how should I put it? The general basic human needs, it gives you for sure a more relaxing life. But if you add to it the work aspect, the responsibilities aspect, the system that Isaac just mentioned, where if you get if you lose your job, you need a job. Then you develop something at least that I don't think a lot of people in Lebanon develop, stress and anxiety from those types of things. That at least I'm fearful of. Is to
Yeah.
ensure always that we have a proper lifestyle and everything.
Yeah, the social services here is more accessible.
Yeah.
Let's go to lightning round. Quick answer only, whatever comes to your mind first.
Okay.
Most useful U.S. mobile app.
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, yeah.
Best tip to avoid homesickness.
Eat food.
YouTube.
One thing you wish you knew before migrating.
That the food doesn't taste as good as it looks.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, probably because you guys, both of you, grew up here. But this
I don't
question is for you, Isaac. Here, best budgeting hack.
Best budgeting hack. Yeah, let's start with the basics. Yeah, I think 50, 30, 20. Start there.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good basic.
So one sentence advice to new immigrants.
Work hard, play hard, own property, invest right, understand that there's going to be challenges, and be better than those.
Hmm.
Yeah, build your community, and yeah, because your community is gonna help you. They're either gonna make you or break you. So choose wisely.
Yep. So segment four, if you were to summarize your journey, what are the most important lessons you want to share with our Katambais?
If I'm going to summarize my journey, I think one of the most important lessons is be humble. That's, for me, I would say always be humble as much as you can. And on the outside, especially with me, I don't look humble. Not physically. I mean, like my lifestyle choices sometimes can go across, but I don't mean it. I really mean, the humble part. Be humble. Help people as much as you can. If you feel like you know somebody who's struggling, and I'm not talking about giving them money. I guess it's the old saying: teach people how to fish versus giving them a fish.
That's right.
And be humble. Like if you see somebody struggling, if you see somebody that maybe doesn't know what they're doing, and even if they didn't ask you for help, why not try?
Yeah.
You won't lose anything.
Yeah, so I think don't forget where you came from. That's one. Remember why you moved to the states. I think a lot of us immigrants moved here. Um, you know, be, it's because we want to help family back home. We want a better life for ourselves. Don't lose that the good things of our culture, right? There's a lot of good things about Filipinos, right? Filipino culture.
I'm adopted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kamustaka?
Yeah.
So I mean, those are traits that I don't have any kids yet, but those are the traits that I want to pass on to my kids. Don't forget. I think there's a study that if your kids know your family story, they become more resilient growing up, right? So if they know your family struggle, okay, my grandparents and my parents went here in the states with only $500. That's an
Right.
immigrant story, right?
Yeah.
um, my parents didn't have anything, and now they have something. They built their wealth in the states. I think those are good things to either pass on to your kids or just to hold on to. Um, so yeah, so my advice, piggyback, be humble, and be true to who you are.
Yeah.
So
Let's wrap this up. Well, thank you so much, Isaac, the financial banker here, advisor, and of course Nader here, some technology side of the finance as well, an entrepreneur, a businessman. Thank you so much for coming in here. Um, Kababayan, Katambay, living in America isn't always easy, but it's possible, achievable, and can become lighter with the right mindset, knowledge, and support. You're not alone in your journey. If you learned something today, follow us here in Tambayan ni Juan sa Austin for more US life tips and real immigrant stories. Thank you so much and see you again next episode. Good night po kababayan, Katambay.